Yeah,
Palestinians.
I
It
don't know.
doesn't help
Why is that
Palestinians because Israel will
ridiculous? Is
not
just
agree to
Let him
it.
respond. Let him respond. Go
so
ahead.
so yeah. So I don't understand why you think those are two claims. So this is the single claim along the same line, right? That they've laid out. Hey, we'll give up civilian control now. Yesterday, I think the last
There's
statement they gave
no
was
way it does
the guy
this for
literally
me,
said
does
yesterday,
it?
we're ready to give it up yesterday, right? They'll give that up
Who does that
now.
benefit though? Like that's not
Well,
giving any. That doesn't give anything. That's not even a
it
concession.
benefits people in Gaza because currently all the civilian infrastructure is Hamas, quote unquote, which Israel uses as
Okay.
justification to bomb it, right? Which is why the police force is being bombed, right? When they're trying to fight off people looting these aid trucks, right? Like
Mhm.
so, yeah. If that is all turned over from Hamas, and that is no longer Hamas, Israel no longer needs to bomb those things. They no longer need to kill the money changers, right? Or the fucking mailman, right? They don't it's because this person is no longer Hamas. So then it definitely benefits the civilians in Gaza. Secondly, this is a claim along the same line because that's a first step. Now, long term, they are agreeing to disarm if these other conditions are met, i.e., Israel agrees to an independent state of Palestine along the pre-1967 borders, which you can say is probably not going to happen. I agree it's probably not going to happen because Israel's leaders have said that's not going to happen. So, like, and this leads me to my other point, right? Which is that it seems like we are. You're speaking as if like the obstacle to peace here is Hamas, but we have similar statements
Oh,
from the
Jesus.
leaders of Israel for decades now about how there will be no two-state solution, how the two-state solution is dead, right? How they're going to push these people into the fucking desert for decades. So I feel like if we want to talk about obstacles, I agree there are obstacles from Hamas. I don't like Hamas. I think it's a terrible organization, but we need to
I
acknowledge that
agree.
there are also terrible people in power in Israel, and they're also an obstacle to peace. Which is why I think it makes more sense to have third parties come in and force them to work through this.
Okay,
And
hands
on
up.
that
Sorry,
note,
wait, hands
and on
up.
that note,
Could I just make
and hold
sure?
on, hold on. On
Okay.
that note, right? Like when we're talking about peace treaties, right? In any conflict, any armed conflict, there's going to be a give and take, right? There are concessions given by both
It is
sides,
not a
right?
concession to say
A
Hamas will
reasonable
stop
concession. Hold on,
taking
I'll
one
give
arms
this a
second,
shot.
back.
one
It's not a.
second,
It's
It's
not
Hold
a.
on.
one
Let
second. Hold
Prime
on.
let
I'm
Prime
look
finish.
at
I'm being a little quiet just because, like, yeah, I'm trying to dig deep into this. I guess I should be talking through what I'm doing, but
I'm not. I'm not going to be long. It's a reasonable concession to say
this is
that
not public.
before we have reached some concrete goals, right, to show that both parties are following the agreement, that that one side doesn't fully disarm. Right, that side says that before we reach that moment in time, that we have a means to defend ourselves in case the other side goes back. And we've seen just recently Israel
Hamas
break
doesn't
ceasefires,
defend the.
unilaterally
Hamas
break
does not
ceasefires.
defend
So
Gaza.
it doesn't matter if you think they don't defend Gaza, right? But I'm saying
They
that
do
when
you think
an
they do? Do you
agreement,
think they
no, no,
do?
hold on, hold on, hold on.
Can you point to
Listen,
like a
hold
single
on, calm down,
example
hold
of
on,
when
calm down.
Hamas has used any
Bring it
part of
back,
their
bring
infrastructure
it
or
back,
capabilities
bring it
to
back.
protect
So
Gazan
this is
civilians?
a
Yes, I
peace
can give you many
treaty.
actually.
Okay, hold
Peace
on. One at a
treaty.
time. Let Prime
Hold on.
finish. Let Prime
Yeah,
finish. Go
this is
ahead.
a peace
Make your point.
treaty between two armed groups, right? So you can feel that Hamas is bad or evil, and I can feel that Hamas is bad or evil. But to get them to agree to that peace treaty, right, there'll be concessions between those two groups, maybe other concerned third parties. That's how it works on the international stage.
Okay.
First of all, that's not always how it works. Second of all, I don't understand this idea that like the issue with Israel is not Hamas members who were giving healthcare and were taking out
Okay,
trash. The issue
I
was the
now
Al
have a
Qassam
download
brigades
link
coming over the
to, I
border
think,
and killing as many people as they could,
the
and then taking a bunch of
Global
hostages.
Terrorism
And then their leadership
Database.
saying, "We want to do this again and again and
Actually,
again and
something.
again and again until Israel's destroyed." That's kind of the issue. So when Hamas is saying, "Yeah, we're going to get rid of our like tax collectors and everything else, but we're going to keep the Al Qassam brigades, the thing that actually did this whole thing in the first place," it's ridiculous. Also, second of all, when you're talking about they're going to get rid of their political or their civilian control, sorry, but not the military wing, you understand that Hamas's military wing and their civilian wing are intertwined, like seriously. So for example, with the police, we know by Hamas's own admission that the police, interior ministry, and the defense ministry and the civil defense was all rammed with soldiers. Okay, like every time one of these sites was bombed, you start to see the Al-Qassam website saying, yeah, we lost like 100 martyrs in this bombing of this police station, because they are intertwined. We know the interior ministry is, we know the police is, we know the civil defense is, we know the new executive force that's just come back is, we know that their finance ministry obviously funds this. So the Al-Qassam brigades, with Israel out of Gaza, is what going to do what? Just defend the strip? No, they're going to reclaim political control. Like there's no indication otherwise. If we're talking about them saying that they accept 2 states with the 6-7 borders and who's intransigent, well, I don't know about you guys, but I don't think anyone in this room thinks that Likud wants a 2-state solution. I just don't know why it's so hard to extract that same concession from the other side. I can find you Khaled Michel from like this year saying we have never accepted a 2-state solution and they're never going to.
Okay, I want to give it to Tali a little bit. She's been trying to get in here. I want to give her a mic for a minute, and then I'll let Prime and Doobie respond. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can now.
Okay, good.
If you were trying to talk before.
Sorry about
yeah.
No, I wasn't.
Tali.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, Israeli society and governmental control is more
Okay.
fungible, is more
Let's
open
see what's in here.
to the changing landscape here, much more so than Hamas is. So this idea, I agree with Lonerbox. Likud has no intention of a 2-state solution on, we can call them the 1967 lines, even though these are, I mean, it's a complete misnomer. These are
Jesus,
borders that
okay,
never
this is
existed
a lot of
before.
data.
But even if we think that that's what the appropriate Palestinian state should look like, this is something that a large portion of Israeli society would be open to and would vote their leaders in to enforce if they believe that that was an actual possibility on the other side of this. So this idea that, again, that we can point to all of these Israeli leaders who say that there'll never be 2 states, we want to push them all into the desert and all of this.
That
But the idea
sucks.
that Hamas is actually open to a lasting 2-state solution
chat
and
line
to eventual demilitarization is just, I feel like we're not living in reality. And it's
just gotta
coddling
go,
this idea too that like, well, yeah, both sides
like,
need to make
incident by
concessions.
incident?
Sure. Yes. Especially if we're talking about a 2-state solution, both sides need to make concessions. Absolutely. And it will be very painful for the
I guess
Israeli
this is-
side
what the
because of the
fuck's going
completely
on here?
unnecessary
Uh-oh.
settlement expansions and things of that nature in the West Bank. But the idea that we need to be looking for equal concessions for some type of ceasefire in Gaza right
I
now,
never said
that
it.
That is a wild statement to put in during what we're covering right now.
is ridiculous.
I never
Okay,
said
sure,
equal.
but even okay, sure, but this idea that it's going to be some even back and forth. This is why people on the Israeli side say that Israel is not allowed to win a war. If people are going to come in and say, fine, Hamas still gets to maintain control. Both of you two, about a year ago, were agreeing that Hamas absolutely cannot remain in control of Gaza. But now that they've successfully had a year and a half of showing horrific torture and bloodshed on TV, people are saying, well, okay, yeah, it's Hamas is kind of bad. I
You're
don't
all
like
good.
them taking all these brave stances. I don't think Hamas is awesome, but saying, but we need to make concessions on both sides. So Hamas should just stay in control and we'll do a ceasefire. And then we are back at square
We're
one.
not saying
We are
Hamas
back at
stay
the
in
status
control. Wait a
quo.
minute, hon.
And
You
I think
guys
this
are
is the problem
asserting
too,
that.
that people assume that people who are against the ceasefire or who are against Hamas remaining in control in some variation of the ceasefire, that they don't care about Palestinian life and they don't want to stop the suffering. I think a lot of people who are against this are looking ahead and are looking at the incentive structure that has been going on for at least the last 20 years in this region of the region. And we want something to change. We don't want to allow for another situation where there are antagonists on the southern border who are shooting rockets in and stealing humans in order to gain sympathy essentially from the world stage, because they don't actually even believe that they can win. That is why their entire strategy is to ruin Israel's reputation on the world stage. And is Israel helping them in that goal? Yes. No argument here. But the idea that, oh, okay, well, things are kind of bad, so we need to just allow Hamas to remain in power, and that is somehow going to solve some things or even bring us in the right direction, I think is
That is,
ridiculous.
again, you have been inserting again and again that we are saying that Hamas should remain in power, right? We're just talking about
You're
the
asking
reality
for
that
concessions that do just that.
we're saying
So you might not
that
want that in your heart of hearts, but you're saying we should vote for
we're
that.
saying
And we
that
should,
I
we
can
should
tell you what I'm
leverage
saying.
the
So what
power
we're
of the
saying is
United
that
States.
the reality of the
to
situation,
enact
the
it.
practical reality of the situations, the practical reality is that if your goal, and I'm not going to put words in your mouth, But like, if your goal is to end hostilities, right? Then like as a practical reality, then we are going to have to make concessions, right? And then and one of those concessions, at least in terms of the Egypt plan, which I support,
Holy shit.
right? As far as I can tell, it seems to be a damn good plan. One of those concessions would
Number
simply be
killed.
that
Okay, Jesus.
Hamas would not immediately disarm, right? This could
Oh
be
my
a great first step.
God.
Ceasefires are great
Sorry, this database is crazy.
first steps to lasting peace. And part of that could be that we say we hand over control,
Holy
actual control, to the PA, right, with assistance from the Arab League and whatever partners, even the United States, right. We
Oh,
can have
God.
assistance there. We can have troops there. We can have physical control. But we're saying rather than force an even longer protracted conflict where a group simply won't hand over their weapons, right? Instead of doing that, let's sue for a treaty, right, or a ceasefire, and then hopefully, once trust is gained on both sides, then we can maybe talk about disarming Hamas. A great first step. This is how treaties work. This is how ceasefires work for long, protracted conflicts around the world.
I'm just so curious from
Israel doesn't
both
need the
Doobie and Prime. What is the Al-Qassam brigades doing running around Gaza without any civilian control in this scenario? Like, why do they want to keep the Al-Qassam brigades? I just want to see some assumptions. Why?
I'd assume that the so
Wait,
my perspective
Cairo,
is that there is a
Illinois.
genocidal campaign happening. I agree. I know that you guys don't think this, but even if it were just ethnic cleansing, and this brigade in this conflict in which one side is attempting an ethnic cleansing, it's a much weaker. I mean, I would agree that Hamas probably wants to ethnically cleanse Israel too, or genocide Israel too. Right? Members of Hamas definitely want this, but one of them is actually doing it currently. So, given that that is the reality on the ground,
One
I
of
can
them tried
totally
on
coming.
October 7th.
no, that wasn't. No, don't do that.
An absolute attempt
no,
at genocide. Yes, like
no,
actually
no,
trying to
no, don't. I can.
eradicate
You
as
can
many
say you
civilians
can say it
as
was a
possible.
genocidal act.
It was
Don't call it an
a
attempt at genocide. If you really think these what
was-
the
Sure, it was
3
a
or 4,000
genocide. Okay,
people
hold
thought they
on,
were going to
hold
kill
on,
all
hold on,
all
hold on,
Jews
hold
in
on.
Israel
Hold on.
are ridiculous.
Hold on.
Like, come on, just be real.
Hold on, you got it. You
Yeah,
do
if
got
that's
a lot
the
of
case,
things to
Holy
say.
fuck.
Wait,
if
why
that's
not?
the case,
So
then Israel
why
has
not,
definitely
though?
committed a
I have
genocide
no
after,
idea,
because
but it's it reminds me of drinking out of cups.
the amount of deaths has far exceeded, right?
It's not a number of deaths,
by
right?
a
It's
factor.
intention. This is
Oh, it
should-
doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
we can get into the
Okay, then
intent
it's
just
not a
fine.
number
That's
of
totally
deaths.
fine.
This is in the genocide convention. It's not just number of deaths, right?
Oh,
Just because you're
great.
having a war doesn't mean that a genocide
I
can't be
agree.
Great.
So the
Congrats.
PA
Agreed.
can say, oh, because of how many deaths, then if that was
We
a
agree.
genocide,
No, we agree. I
obviously is.
agree.
No,
I
we don't
agree.
agree. We don't. No, we don't agree. We don't agree.
20,
Because it's not just, well, look at all this
25,
deaths. So then,
20,
if that was some type of attempt at genocide, then this obviously
Oh,
is.
now I have the
No,
most
it's not obvious.
depressing
It's the
list in the
intention,
world.
specifically the specific intent that matters when you were trying to
Great.
classify
Then-
something as a genocide.
Yeah, I agree.
Or as a war crime. And this
And we
idea
can
too
look
that, like,
at
first of all, there's not ethnic. There is no ethnic cleansing right now. There's a serious risk
That's
for
ridiculous.
ethnic cleansing, but like ethnically cleansed to where? From where?
We had no terrorist attacks in 2024? What? That doesn't sound...
This what from the north to the south and then from the south back to the north. This is not ethnic cleansing. And trying to evacuate people from the worst of the war zone is also not ethnic cleansing. There is a sincere and serious risk for future ethnic cleansing, and I don't want to see that happening. But we don't need to use these hyperbolic words where they don't fit. There are plenty of war crimes
just
going on
doesn't-
that we can call out specifically without resorting to these terms that just do not fit.
Okay, so I totally disagree with everything you just said, but I'm going to grant it. So if you agree that there's a severe risk for like future ethnic cleansing, I mean, I think you could understand. I know it's difficult to like relate to Hamas members, but like extend some human empathy and be like, hey, why would this person not want to lay down their arms when there's like an army currently ethnically cleansing, or might maybe in the future ethnically
Because they're
cleansing the area?
Islamists. Like they
Don't
have
do the
they are
Islamist thing.
committed
They're
to the
human
goal
beings
of jihad.
that don't want to fucking die. They don't want their families to be ethnically
Yeah, but
cleansed. They
this
don't want their people to
this
die.
idea that there are
So totally
resistance fighters and
reasonable.
everyone at
Hold on.
every
They
I mean,
are.
to be
Hamas
fair,
Hold on,
Doobie,
hold on.
You can extract religion from
You're
both
also
sides.
hold
of this,
on.
and these people would
Everyone
still be
stop for a
fighting.
minute. Everyone
No,
stop.
not the same
Everyone
at
stop.
all.
Everyone stop for a minute. You're all talking over each other. I like the energy, but we can't hear you when you're talking over each other. Let Doobie finish, then you guys can respond. I'll give it to Loner and to Tali to respond, but let Doobie finish, please. Go ahead.
Okay, so the back to the learner's question, and I apologize. I've had 3 coffees today. Okay, it's been a very busy day for me, so I'm a little hyped up, but I'm gonna try to calm down.
It's a
So,
millennial ass lizard.
Back to learner's question. What would they be doing? I think providing security, defense just in case one of these genocidal ethnic cleansing brigades comes through and tries to kill people, as we've seen repeatedly, right, with civilians being slaughtered in mass and then later labeled terrorists. But from admissions from IDF soldiers and officers who said this has happened repeatedly, hundreds of people killed at a time, and then later labeled terrorists. So I think Hamas probably wants this to not happen, which is why they maintain their arms. To be clear, I don't want them to be in control long term. I think Hamas should be disbanded, but I think it makes sense from their perspective and from the perspective of like just a fucking human that they wouldn't want to give up their arms during an ethnic cleansing or with the risk of a future ethnic cleansing.
It's like a total. I don't know what happens to the brain when it's like we're in Japan in 45 and they've just nuked Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the Japanese emperor is like, "No, we're not going to surrender, and we need to keep our arms just in case they try to nuke us more, and we need to defend ourselves against the
I know,
nukes."
right?
It's like, bro, Hamas has no means of defense.
I asked you if you had better slop to watch. My recs are open.
Not ridiculous. Hamas has no.
It is ridiculous.
Okay, you're right. It's not ridiculous because Hamas does the opposite of defending their civilians. Hamas hides in tunnels underneath the civilians where the civilians can't go, and the civilians have to stay in the buildings above the tunnels. And when evacuation warnings are given by the IDF to leave because this place is going to become a combat
Irrelevant.
zone,
All this is
Hamas
irrelevant.
tells their civilians, "No, fuck you, stay, stand strong." Okay,
You're good.
Because again, they benefit from civilians being around them in two ways. One, because it makes it harder to find them and attack them. And two, because if they do get attacked, then they get to use the civilian deaths to fuck with Israel on the world stage. Like again, you can say it's dehumanizing and all that to talk about what they believe, but you can listen to Hamas members and leaders themselves and how they talk about martyrdom. They glorify it, okay? Even when it's civilians dying, they call it like Sinwar calls it a necessary sacrifice, or he did back in the day. And now they still, like, even you leaders still refer to it in this kind of positive way. So there's nothing defensive about Hamas staying there with their arms. Those arms can't defend anyone from anything. Why is Israel in Gaza right now? If Israel had the choice to fight an army out in the field in the middle of the desert with tanks and planes and shit like that, they would do that because that's what they did in the past, and they actually did a really good job of it.
I'm going on a fucking list. It's all very explainable, but I am probably going on a list.
This is the longest war they've been in by far, okay, by months and months and months, because they're in a situation that they are not militarily, like, typically prepared to deal with. This is Hamas choosing the battlefield. Hamas chose to dig all those tunnels and put them under civilian infrastructure. Hamas chose to go into a country that they were never going to defeat militarily, to attack them and then run back into the strip where all the civilians are. It's never been about defending their own civilians. And half of Gaza actually agrees with me on this right now, because half of them, 48% to be exact, supports the protesters who are literally accusing Hamas of dealing in their blood, of gambling with their lives. They understand it. I have no idea how naive you could be to think that Hamas is keeping their arms in case Israel bombs them more and tries to... How are arms going to stop that?
Okay, you're saying this as if it's like stupid, but let me just explain why your Japan comparison is
It's
silly.
naive.
Right? So I agree you're being naive.
naive
I
at the
agree. I agree.
least.
You're being naive. So the Japan comparison is silly because, I mean, I'd agree with you if at the time there were major U.S. leaders, political figures, generals, etc., who were openly calling for the genocide of all the Japanese, or for the pushing these people into the sea, or to force them to go to China or something else. But that wasn't happening. Right, there was a war happening. The war was the deal was, hey, if you want us not to fucking bomb you again, you need to stop this war, and we're gonna come in. We're gonna work out a deal. You guys are gonna give up. Like I think they like disarmed or whatever the fuck after World War II. So given that given that currently there are Israeli leaders, and for decades now, Israeli leaders who have repeatedly called for ethnic cleansing, who've repeatedly called for genocide. I don't think these two things are comparable. I think it would have made sense for Japan to not.
So this is... So he's trying to parlay wanted lists. Why would I be on the wanted list? I haven't done anything. I'm just, like, making the point that it looks like Trump is trying to parlay this incident into, I guess, all of these. I guess we'll have to look at 2024, but
not immediately give up, right, and just surrender themselves to genocide
Doesn't-
or ethnic cleansing if that was a reality back then, right? But that's the reality now in Gaza. These are the people on the other side of the wall for them, right? Is yes, you have. I would agree. Hamas committed a genocidal act on October 7th,
find it hard to
100%.
believe there's no.
I agree that many people within Hamas are genocidal, of course, right? And I'm sure people outside of Hamas in Gaza, because they've been traumatized and there's so much hatred there that's been built up for decades now. Many of them are probably genocidal. And we know that many Israelis, for similar reasons, are also genocidal, right? There's like a reciprocal radicalization happening. So I think the first step to stopping that and to pull down the fucking the steam is just to have a ceasefire. And if Hamas is agreeing that they will do a ceasefire and they will give us civilian control, that's a beautiful first step, right? And then long term, you can work toward the demilitarization of Hamas. But rejecting the first step because you want to get like.
Are you saying that I'd be wanted for being against Trump? Is that the implication there?
To you want the entire package all up front is fucking ridiculous. It's exactly what Hamas has been doing, which is also fucking ridiculous.
Okay.
The Allies absolutely used insane dehumanizing rhetoric against the Japanese. Okay, like they literally
They
saw
say they're
them
gonna push
almost
them
as
to the sea or
another
kill them all?
species.
Mania?
They put the what?
Did they say they would kill them all or push them into the sea?
I'm sure some of them did. Yeah. They nuked them? What are you talking about? Like, they
Yeah,
nuked
what I'm
them.
talking
My
about,
bad, my bad.
what I'm talking about is there was not a long history or active or current current at the time leaders saying that they were going to genocide the Japanese, meaning kill all of them or ethnically cleanse them, meaning push them all off the islands of Japan and into the sea or into China or whatever else. That was not a political reality at the time. That was
Yeah, I'm
not
sure.
happening.
Yeah, they
Maybe
didn't
some
say that.
crazy
They
dude
just
said it.
yeah, they just
but it was not-
firebombed more
yeah.
people in 3 days than Israel has managed to kill
Yeah,
in the
I'm not
entire
saying
20
I'm
months
not
of a
saying it's a good
genocidal
thing.
campaign.
I'm not
Sorry, back. Yeah, sorry.
saying this is
Right.
a good thing.
I'm just.
but
You're-
the goals of
Oh,
the
you
Americans
gotta
were
let Loner.
clear.
You got to let Loner
Okay, go ahead.
finish.
I think
too,
the
right?
thing that,
Like,
okay, you know what? Let's just grant everything you're saying. Let's actually say that, yes, Israel wants to do everything that you say they want to do. Why is Hamas continuing going to help that, for one? Two, I can just say Hamas themselves disagree with this, by the way. Like Hamas, I can find you some statements from the Interior Ministry in previous wars. Hamas knows that if they are caught firing a rocket from the town square, that town square might get bombed, okay? That's why they tell their civilians to shut the fuck up whenever they see any Hamas militant activity in their area, right? So I don't understand this logic that it's like, well, okay, they might they might bomb us, so I guess we should just like fire some more rockets that are not going to do shit anyway to avoid them bombing us. This is a non sequitur. Like even if everything you're saying is, and I just completely grant it to you, Hamas cannot prevent that. Whereas if we're talking about the world stage and everything, pretty sure Israel's entire pretext for being in Gaza right now and why they had so much support from the international community to begin with was because Hamas was attacking them. If there's no rockets being fired, wait, okay, I'm just gonna make this a question. Do you think if Hamas lay down their arms tomorrow, Israel, or if they lay down their arms a year ago, do you think Israel would have just kept on airstriking?
No, I think they would have continued
This
to
is why I
expand
went
to
to
the
business school, so I can put together these spreadsheets faster.
area to antagonize the Gazans and people in the West Bank as they're currently doing.
What do you mean
Until
expand?
some other group formed and lashed out at them, and they would use that to justify more expansion and war, etc.
So they would have put settled.
Just to be clear, this is the last, like, what, 2.5 years? So far we've had US, India, US, Mauritania, Yemen, US, Egypt. Like, okay, it's obviously obviously anti-immigrant. That is 100%. It does definitely carry undertones, to say the very least, of Islamophobia and just a general fear of Arab nations. Yeah, like, the rationale doesn't work. Which, shocker, it's Trump. What it actually is, I think, it's just him going down the list of countries, for the most part, that overstay their visas the most, and then throwing in Cuba for some reason, Afghanistan, and Libya. and then saying, "Yep, these are how terrorists are getting into our country." It's disjointed bullshit, if you can believe it.
Settlements into Gaza, if Hamas had given up on, say, like last year.
Long term, sure. I don't think it would have happened like this year, but I think that they would continue their antagonism in Gaza, to Palestinians generally, and in the West Bank. Which I think people like speak of the West Bank and Gaza as if the Palestinians there don't consider themselves related in any way, but they do, right? Hamas has used the expansions in the West Bank for fucking years now as justifications for their missile strikes, right? And you can say you don't believe
Who's
them,
on
but
this
they seem to
panel?
believe themselves, and other Gazans seem to believe them. So I think that Israel would have continued the antagonism. Because if there was like no resistance group there, and then eventually another resistance group would form, and they would do some crazy shit to lash out.
What was
which you would
Israel's?
expect.
Can you
I'm gonna do some
can you
trick
summarize
shot
Israel's
simulator,
Gaza
and I'm
policy
actually
before
gonna
October 7th?
listen to this.
I think if I were to summarize it, I would say containment, but also the tacit support of Hamas to stop the formation of like a serious political movement that Israel would have to
Yeah.
contend with.
I agree. Are you also aware that relaxing measures was
Honestly,
part of their policy
I'm here to see Loner.
between, say,
Yes.
2010? Yeah. So
Yeah.
the worst measures of the blockade were 2007, 2010.
Boner Cox.
From 2014 onwards, they started making concessions. Like the blockade measures started getting relaxed. A lot more goods.
Should
You
make
didn't have
this game
any
multiplayer.
situations where like pasta and cookies were getting banned anymore, and like shaving creams and stuff like that. So like it was
Oh.
the dual use list was a lot more narrow than it was in 2007 to 2010. It was also the case that the maritime border that Gaza had was expanded, right? So that it went out by like 6 nautical miles, so people had more
Yeah.
room for fishing. Work permits were up by like 20,000, and then after that, I think there was going to be another 20 or 30,000 before October 7th. So it seems to be that Israel's approach was it's almost as if they're not just driven to do this kind of like expansion and destruction unconditionally. It seemed to be that when Israel very foolishly believed that Hamas was a pragmatic movement, and that Sinwar was more interested in domestic power than in a large-scale confrontation with Israel, it seemed like Israel was willing to make concessions. That's why I'm curious why you think that like had Hamas given up, then Israel would have just continued the antagonism. It seemed to be that with regards to Gaza, they were doing the opposite when they thought Hamas was more practical.
I'm gonna let Duber respond to that if he wants, and go
Getting
to
this
Prime and give
goddamn
his
trick
following. That's
shot.
the order we're gonna go in. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we're like
Maybe not.
there's an issue with this whole conflict, which is like there's a lot of tit for tat, right? And each side is claiming that the other side was a tit, right? That they started it. And I can agree that there were periods where Israel was loosening restrictions, but in the same period, Israel was expanding the West Bank. Israel was antagonizing these people in other ways, was harassing people along the. Is the Green Line even there anymore? Really?
Yes.
Like I feel like, sort of, right? So like I feel like and at the same time, like you had all these Israeli leaders talking about greater Israel, talking about expanding to Gaza. People not just running for office, but people in power saying this. So I don't know why we
I mean,
wouldn't
our
like
people in
expect
power talking about annex
that these
fucking
people who are using
Canada.
these political ambitions, right, to hold political office, and while expanding to the West Bank, right, while doing all this wild shit there to antagonize, why we wouldn't expect them to eventually do this within Gaza, right? Like, it seems like the goal is to just take the whole region, and I think they should take the whole region, probably for different reasons than you guys do. Because I would say that they should just annex it and like long-term annex it and have like an actual like liberal democracy there, which would take a very long time. I'd agree. But I just my issue is that I trust the Israeli leaders when they're speaking in public, and it seems like you
this
guys
lizard
think that
dude
when they
is
say things in public,
whack.
they are just like playing politics. But when Hamas says things in public, they're being honest, and I think all of them are being honest about their political ambitions, which is I think Hamas's political ambitions is that they're kind of lunatics who think that if they do this long enough, Israel will crumble somehow. Whereas Israel believes that if they just keep pushing in Gaza, I'm sorry, in the West Bank, they can take that region eventually, right? Push these people out or force some group to lash out that would justify military action there. I think they did the same thing in Gaza, and I think this is a result, right? This is the result, and I think this is the long-term political ambition of many Israeli leaders.
Go ahead, Prime, then go Tally, and then we'll get back into it, right? Go ahead, Prime.
Sure, no problem. our
Just don't have
friend
anything
Tally
high
here
enough to put this
was
on.
talking about intent and how that is also
Give me a sec.
necessary for a genocide or even maybe even ethnic cleansing. So we have statements, of course,
Trying to make sure it doesn't
from
show
the
like
Israeli
the
politicians
wiener.
because they never shut the hell up about this, right? So Netanyahu, as reported by the Jerusalem Post, right? Maybe they're anti-Semites, I don't know. They say Netanyahu says we are destroying more and more homes, and Gazans have nowhere to return to. The only inevitable outcome will be the wish of Gazans to emigrate outside of the Gaza Strip, right? Clear intent for ethnic cleansing, destroying their homes, and they've leveled Gaza, right? Hopefully, we can all agree on that, but maybe not. And destroying
What do we think?
the necessary requirements for life. I can go more in detail into that later. So
All right,
that's one,
see you back.
right? But
Thanks for stopping in.
there's a lot more than that. So there is the deputy speaker for the Israeli parliament, a person named Nissam Baturi. I'm sure I'm butchering that. He says, "Wipe Gaza off the face of the earth," and added, "Gaza must be burned." He said, "I stand behind my words. It is
Jesus
better to
fuck.
burn down buildings rather than have Israeli soldiers harmed. There are no innocents there." And he said in a radio interview before calling for the elimination of the estimated 100,000 Palestinians left in northern Gaza. But then he says, quote, "I have no mercy for those who are still there. We need to eliminate them." Vittori, who belongs to the Likud, the right-wing party of Netanyahu. And this article has many, many more statements like that. And I can read that if you think that's not enough. You think, hey, he is not significant. Don't worry, got a whole list. So there's plenty of intent by the Israelis for genocide. Let's get that out of the way. Beyond that, going back to the previous conversation, the Egypt plan also calls for elections to be held, hopefully within a year of the plan being initiated. So there is a pathway here. There's a pathway to
Connor.
peace.
Good call.
And pathway to peace usually don't start immediately with disarmament by one person, unless it's like unilateral surrender, right? Very rarely is that the case. And clearly, Hamas says otherwise. And if they continue to say no, right, well, then I think you'll agree that Israel will continue the campaign, continue bombing. And so if the campaign never ends, if Hamas is belligerent and says they never end, where does that end up? Like, what is the end result if they continue to do this and aid is slow to a trickle, famine is running wild within that area, right? Either that's an ethnic cleansing campaign at the very least, or attempted to, even if they can't get them out, or genocide. Please go ahead.
Light toss.
Okay,
That
so
was close.
the idea that we need to allow the Qassam brigades to maintain their military control over the Gaza Strip, because otherwise that is somehow going to maintain the status quo. You said if Hamas is not willing to surrender and Israel is not willing to stop until Hamas surrenders, then we're just stay in this state of war forever. Well, no, potentially what would happen is even more death and destruction of innocent civilians in Israel's effort to defeat Hamas. And I do think that is ultimately possible, even if it's not going to be quick or pretty. I don't understand why the response is, okay, yeah, so then we should pressure Israel to accept the Al-Qassam brigades maintaining military control over the Gaza Strip, and not, yes, we should be putting the pressure on the Qassam brigades on
such a
Hamas
slight
to surrender.
touch.
There should be a full surrender. The Hamas is not. I'm gonna jump a little bit back to what Doobie was saying too. But this idea that, like, okay, even if you got rid of Hamas, like another resistance group is just going to organically
That's way too much.
develop in its place.
Right.
Perhaps, but that's not what Hamas is. That is not, Hamas is not there to defend the rights and liberties of the Palestinian people. Hamas is not there to establish a sovereign Palestinian state. Hamas is there to wage jihad against the Israeli state and to ensure that they have Arab control from the river to the sea. That is just obviously not.
That doesn't matter, right?
It matters to Israel at the very least,
no,
and they're the ones with all the power.
But
in
it
the
doesn't
region,
matter
so
in terms of
no.
That's not what I'm talking about.
God.
So it doesn't matter that Hamas may be of bad intent, right? Let's grant you everything you just said about Hamas.
You're right. They may be.
No, they are.
It's possible.
Let's say they are. I'm granting you everything, right? That doesn't make a difference in terms of like the peace process. The point is to stop hostilities, right? Again, I think you share in that goal to stop hostilities. Well, then that
God
might
damn,
take a
bro.
phased plan, right? Like that happens. I mean, you understand this happens in peace treaties, peace negotiations around the world, right? When we have an armed conflict, especially a protracted one, right? Usually, except for very rare occasions, it's not like one side completely gives up and puts down their arms
God
immediately.
damn.
There's usually a phased plan. Why not start with that or put forth something like that, a phased plan for that, when we can see that both sides are making tangible strides to goals laid out.
Can I make an assumption, and you'll correct me if this is true or
Sure.
not? I'm assuming that the reason that you are even sympathetic to this plan is because you want to make sure that there is someone in the Gaza Strip who can protect the Palestinian people.
No,
Otherwise, I don't
no,
see why you would even be
no,
sympathetic to this at all.
because I don't need to, because again, like this plan calls for
If you're only
outside
sympathetic
forces.
to it because
No,
you
no,
think it's a step,
no, that's not. Hold on, I'm literally telling you. I'm giving you the answer, right? So wait for the answer, and then you can respond to that. So no, I'm not saying that. In fact,
Where's my
like
mouse?
once again, the plan
Where's my
calls
cards?
for
Oh,
third-party
there you go.
nations, the UN security forces, to come and secure the area. That's what I'm in favor of, right there.
She's
Right?
clever,
It's
guys.
not that I think
She's a smart
Hamas are
person.
good guys or Hamas
Hey,
will sacrifice
she's more
themselves
right-wing than I
for the
am.
greater goal of the people. No, I don't have to do that at all. The
But this is
plan actually
refreshing.
allows for the outside parties to interfere. Right.
so I think there's no reason to believe that would actually be possible, that the UN peacekeepers are going to stay in Gaza if they're starting to be bombed and attacked and shot in the streets by Hamas.
Why not?
Which is obviously because they haven't in the past.
The hand cam
Because they've
looks so
run when
creepy.
the going got tough in the past, and really, why should they? The idea that someone you're bringing like just more arms into
that
the
was
region.
so
Then, in
close.
order for this idea that Hamas is going to maintain their military control, but we're
Okay, so I gotta
also
go
going to bring in some
this
type
way.
of international military control,
Angle 'em.
so they need to be at least as strong
Angle it
as
out.
Hamas. And so
Up.
then what? We're just having like
Which is
another
easy.
armed conflict.
Israel's been very successful in degrading
that was
Hamas's
so
capabilities. I mean, they
goddamn
brag about it
close.
all the time, right?
No.
That Hamas is only a shadow of itself. Yeah, you can easily outgun Hamas, right? With modern militaries like stationed in Gaza with
so who's
bases,
going
of
in?
course they
So
could.
which countries are going to send? So who's sending their soldiers?
Sure, it could be. Yeah, it could be
Actually, if
your
that's the plan,
allies.
then this should have
Oh
started
my
a long time
lordy
ago.
Jesus.
If the goal is that we need someone in there, to protect the Palestinian people and be able to ward off Hamas, then that should have happened a long time ago.
I do have a
Agreed.
question.
Hamas equal bad. Hold
Sure.
on, just a sec. It could be
Real quick.
your allies, right? Egypt is an ally, correct? Right?
To be
think that Egypt is?
just to be clear, absolutely fucking no one wants to do this. Okay, we saw this we had how many?
They
like,
have
how many?
they put forth a plan for exactly
yeah,
this.
I know, and I've seen the Egyptian plan you're talking about, right? And
Yep.
the only illusion, because it's just an illusion they make to Hamas, is, and you tell me how serious this sounds, is the issue of multiple armed Palestinian factions remains challenging. However, it is one that can be addressed and even resolved permanently only if its root causes are tackled by providing a clear political prospect and a credible process that works to establish the Palestinian state and restores the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people to their rightful owners. Bro, this is like asking a first-year sociology lefty like how you deal with crime, and all they want to talk about is like root causes and the way people are raised and like social
because
like,
if you don't address
sensitivity.
causes, then people are
I'm
going to
sorry,
do it again.
that's great,
Right?
but there's also a military with guns. I'm sorry, it's like there's also, by the
They
same
can
token,
build-
that
there
there are
will be
also
another
people
group
like committing
afterwards if you
crimes
don't
and
actually
breaking
address
people's
it.
houses and shit
Let
like that.
Loner
So,
go. Let Loner
yeah,
go.
by the same token, that like, yeah, at the end of the day, you also need a police force, right? We know
Yes,
how
exactly, and I've been talking about one.
we know how UN
You've been ignoring
we
that.
know how UN forces have worked in Lebanon with Hezbollah. They were fucking useless. Okay, Hezbollah armed themselves to the teeth from 2006 all the way up until
your Arab
last
allies.
year. Pick your Arab allies.
Arab
Really,
allies.
you think the Saudi?
Where are they?
You think the Saudi
Pick
or
your-
Egyptian?
the ones that have signed on to this plan.
Really, you think
those
the,
are the ones?
you think
They're
the
not-
Saudi and
fine,
Egyptian
then
military have
do it.
agreed to send soldiers
Then,
into
that
Gaza
would
to
require
fight with
Israel to
Hamas?
agree, obviously. I mean, then do it.
Wait.
Israel
This
will
is
have to
hang
agree.
on. So
I'm saying Israel should agree to
hey,
this.
maybe my memory is fucked. Okay, because I read the 106-page document from Egypt. Did they volunteer to send Egyptian soldiers in there to fight with Hamas in case they cause trouble? But no one wants to do this. I don't understand. It's like given how
Of
Hamas
course, no one
fights and
wants
given
to
how
do
they
this.
operate,
Why
like
would they?
no one's
This
going
is
to
a
do this.
$53 billion plan, right? No one wants to do any of this, right? No one wants to be involved in the peace talks because it's going to cost them something politically. Of course, that's a situation, right? That's why we have an international response, right? Group responses to this.
Hell,
But if
I'm actually
anyone can
getting,
get
like,
out of
orbital
doing this,
tunnel.
sending in their troops, right? Well, that'll only play well domestically. That will be the case for anything, for any force that might come in, right? Other than Israelis who are dying to get back into Gaza, right? Other than them, everyone is going to be hesitant. Of course.
I haven't spoken to that many IDF soldiers, but as far as I know, like none of them want to go back to Gaza if they've ever been in there. Yeah, fuck that.
No.
But like again,
I've spoken to a
Egypt,
lot, and a lot of
as
them
far
are
And
as
also, the
Middle Eastern
overwhelming
countries are,
majority of
genocidal.
Israelis, they don't want Gaza. They don't want to settle in Gaza. The overwhelming
not true.
majority of Israelis,
that is true.
it is true. It
No, it's
is
not.
true. They have no interest in resettling Gaza. The majority of Israelis, if they believe that there was a sincere desire for some type of two-state solution on the quote-unquote 1967 lines, people would be in support of it. There are obviously the West Bank is a severe complication, and there are I think real strategic threats or concerns that aren't necessarily always taken seriously as to why Israel might want to maintain some type of control in the West Bank. But the idea that all Israel, like this greater Israel and stuff like that, yes, sure, there are some freaks who are interested in this, and they do have some contingency within the Israeli public. It's a vanishingly small number of people who
You're
actually
correct.
are interested
It
in
is
greater
vanishingly small.
Israel
You're
and
smart.
expanding their
That is
borders
correct.
outside
But
of
they
Israel
have
proper.
political power, right? They're part
They
of
do.
the
They do.
Likud
And the way
coalition,
and
governing
the
coalition.
way to ensure that they maintain as much political power as possible is to keep Hamas in power in Gaza. All of this feeds
We're
the
not
forces
advocating
in
for that.
Israel that people demonize.
We're not
God
You
advocating.
are.
So
for
hold
You're
on. So to be
advocating.
clear,
You're
no,
advocating that Israel
No, we're
accept
not.
a
I need the
ceasefire that
clip
you say
of
would
getting
allow
this.
the Qassam brigades to maintain military control in Gaza.
No,
That
not military
gives
control. No,
fuel
no,
to
hold on. I didn't say that.
to
Oh,
the
no, I didn't say
crazy
that. Once again, not military control,
military
right?
presence.
That they wouldn't put down their arms at the very, yeah, but military presence, yes, fine. But military presence where they wouldn't necessarily put down their arms immediately, yeah, and a
Seven
phased
per sec.
response,
Oh,
right?
my
And then from
lord.
there, like once you build up that trust, once like this plan calls for the rebuilding of Gaza, right? $53 billion. That's where it's going into.
Oh,
Rebuilding of
okay.
Gaza, rebuilding of the civilian infrastructure,
I didn't realize
rebuilding
you
of
guys
the
joined the
airport,
server.
rebuilding of all of that. In that case, right, especially after an election,
What happens
how
to the
does
Palestinians? What happens to the Palestinians in the interim?
there'll be interim housing being built at the same time, like temporary housing, and then from there in the next stage they'll start building more permanent housing as they advance. But yeah, they won't, I mean, housing won't magically
This just
appear
doesn't
there
seem
immediately.
like
There's going to be a period where they'll be homeless, unfortunately.
wait, hold on. Can I say a couple
Doobie
things?
the mic. Go ahead.
So something that bothered me earlier is I think you were implying that Israel would not be okay with other armed groups within Gaza, right? But Israel is currently funding, and has been for at least a year now, gangs in Gaza, criminal gangs in Gaza that have looted aid convoys repeatedly, and they've even attacked. And
All right, I'll be right
Hamas's
back.
police
Give me a sec.
force has attacked.
Oh, I gotta piss. So let's do. Yes, yes. All right. Oh no! No, please don't tell me. Okay.
Attacked these groups, and Israel has bombed the police force that was trying to attack
I
these
finish
groups
the
to get them
Washington
to
Post
stop
crossword?
stealing the aid. And this was happening last year, and this is still happening, right? So So Israel is obviously okay with some level of another like armed force within Gaza that's opposed to Hamas, and I agree it's currently a bad situation because you have these two groups fighting, and neither of them seem to have the ultimate like well-being of Palestinians at the top of their mind. So but that's number one.
I
But
did not.
you guys keep hitting on this like this idea that
We don't need
it would be
hand cam for
ridiculous to expect them
this.
to give us civilian control and then eventually in the long term give up
Unless you
like
really want.
demilitarize or disarm. But that's exactly what happened with the IRA. Now, obviously, I don't think these two situations are exactly comparable.
Nope,
But the
that's
IRA
what
did
we
give
want.
up civilian control, and then it was like almost 10 years before they fully disarmed, right? So
What's
like
bruh? What is bruh now? Why me? What did I do? You upset I turned off the hand cam? Okay. Sure. All right. Got some good research done. We got slightly concerning list of countries of origin of different terrorists. Elon and the others wanted to put DogeKit. Elon and the others who wanted to put the Doge cuts in seem reasonably pissed. Yeah. Elon is pissed. That is very true. And he's going ham on Twitter, as we've seen. What's your... I'm not verified yet. Oh, no. Oh, my God. So, are they officially splitting? This is the worst breakup since One Direction, if so. Like, very hot and cold line of tweets. Epstein likes to tell people he's a loner, a man who never... the relationship between Trump and Epstein is well established. It is even... okay. So Musk is going... lightly nuclear? Buddy been known for all this. I don't think it's a split in the traditional sense. Seems to have a majority problem with the bill, and Trump letting it go through than Trump himself. Yeah. Part of me... well, he's half holding back and half not. Like, this is fuck. This is fuck. This is like nuclear. Oh my Jesus. I mean, we could pull up Truth Social. I kind of want to put together a tweet timeline. Okay. At least as it pertains to this. Okay, so it doesn't seem like there's a lot of Musk shit here as of yet. But now the last couple tweets are in chronological order are Elon, even Trump's base is pissed at him. Yeah, but like Doge didn't find much. Elon was wearing thin. I asked him to leave, so I took away his EV mandate that forced everyone to buy electric cars that nobody else wanted, that he knew for months I was going to do, and he just went crazy. The easiest way to save money is in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts. I was always surprised Biden didn't do it. Oh boy. I don't mind Elon turning against me, but he should have done so months ago. This is one of the greatest bills ever presented to Congress. It's a record cut in expenses. If the bill doesn't pass, there will be a 68 tax increase. Far worse than that. I didn't create this mess. I'm here to fix it. We're all on the same page here that the bill spikes up the deficit. Fine. I'm doing this. I'm sacrificing my dignity, my pride. I'll make a Truth fucking Social account to read this shit. Why in terms of what? There's a lot of whys going on. Yes, I am making an account. Don't worry. Goes against my... The stuff is... Yeah, but I want to get it straight from the tap, you know? And... I don't know, yeah, it's just like, it's reminiscent of the H1B thing. Oh, wait. I'm just getting reports that there's a new Beadly TikTok short. Yes. Yes, no, I know this exists. Just I'm just gonna make the account. Nope. Skip this step. I will follow Trump and Vance. Skip this step. Sign in. Yeah. All right, here we are. Follow me on Truth Social. In the belly of the beast. Okay. I guess there's nothing here. I mean, how weird of a situation is it really? So this is all this shit. Who's he following? Ted Nugent, Tiffany Trump Golf, Trump Store, Trump Tower, New York. Okay. See if we have any mutuals. Wait, it just automatically... it automatically puts you in all of these? Holy Lord. That's funny. Well, I mean, okay. This is not unhinged. It's like, as far as Trump shit goes, it's honestly on the more hinged side. But there's also like saying he asked him to leave, which I mean would make sense. I don't think he will either. Let's see. When did the fuck did this start? Like, Holy okay, so also I doubt anyone asked him to leave in the way. Well, there was Musk Besant argument. Do we trust any of these sources? Shocking video. Let's see. Shocking video.
I have a surprise for you, which is that we're going to be awarding. Yeah, we're only doing
Is this just... What the fuck is this? Hey, this is nothing. I guess we'll watch...
Of the White House last week.
The cause? The two men clashed over a dispute about the IRS.
I feel like the Epstein shit is kind of a hard shot, right? Like... That's the... Your base, like, the undertone is pretty clear. Like, it's really not... really, like, barely a layer of abstraction from just calling the guy a pedophile.
But quickly it got more personal than that. The two traded barbs, with Besant slamming Musk over overpromising and under-delivering Doge budget cuts. Musk quickly hit back, labeling Besant as a Soros agent, that's a quote, and alleging he ran a, quote, failed hedge fund. One witness said it was two billionaire middle-aged men thinking it was WWE in the halls of the West Wing.
The chest-to-chest clash capped off with Elon Musk following Besant,
They had a
unfollowing
clap
Besant.
off? Now that is something that would be breaking news.
On X, the White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt writes in a statement, well, it's no secret President Trump has put together a team of people who are incredibly passionate about the issues impacting our country.
Meanwhile, Musk is saying he's stepping back from his Doge duties. His announcement comes as Tesla saw a 71% drop in Q1 profits. X users are sounding off about the disagreement. One user writing, quote, this administration is a D-list reality show. Such an embarrassment.
Entrepreneur Miriam Cooley says Elon is under most of the pressure and scrutiny. He's taking way too much unnecessary heat.
Oh, no.
And it's not healthy.
I'm sure there's a... Honestly, I'm all for it being disjointed in this respect. If that means nothing gets done and the base is split for this admin, I am a happy man.
For him. Look, I kind of agree with Caroline Leavitt that they can argue. That's fine. They have disagreements. Trump has put together a team of people who have some real profound disagreements in the hopes that ideological differences make for stronger policy, and they're going to work those out, sometimes in private.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, the MAGA, like, it's just an interesting study. Like, Musk is like, hey, I don't like this bill. I mean, prior to this tirade. But really, that's his big crime, is he went against something Trump said. And just like it was with the H-1B visa thing, you saw that, like, when you step in fucking cat's pube outside of the cult, they viciously attack you. And I don't even like Musk, but it's just like, it's so ineffective. Now, obviously, from my policy point of view of things, I prefer ineffective. But
Private, sometimes even in public, and that's good for transparency and accountability. And I don't care at all that they yelled at each other. I like both Scott Bessent and Elon Musk. In their both of them are more proximate to my own ideological leanings. I think it is fair, frankly, of Bessent to say that Musk has overpromised on Doge, and that, in fact, unless these cuts are done via rescission, unless there's congressional action to make them permanent, they could all just vanish. So I think that's a real accusation to make. Elon isn't stepping away because he's suddenly becoming unpopular, though, within the administration. He's stepping away because he had a special government employee status that is about to run out of time. He will still be very, very involved in the Trump administration.
I just find the whole thing to be juvenile. Like you said, if you elect a reality show president, you're going to have a reality show in the office often. I mean, we saw the president arguing with...
It's just funny, the tone, too. Like, whatever. Keep the EV and solar. Like, if you read it in this voice, that's just how I'm imagining it in my head. Whatever. Keep the EV and solar incentive cuts in the bill, even though no oil and gas subsidies are touched. Very unfair. But ditch the mountain of disgusting pork in this bill. Like, it's a little catty, to say the least. False. This bill was never shown to me. God, I don't know who to believe. You might like, oh my God, on Musk's page, Cristiano Ronaldo, Andrew Tate, and Dogecoin. Kill me. And he's reposting. Yeah, it's an ego war. But it looks to me like Musk is fighting nobody. Someone must have taken it. I don't know. She can't step out of the cult. Oh my God. Oh, don't worry. Wall Street Mav agrees with Elon. Okay, dudes, fellas. This is so catty. Sorry. Okay, Trump just went to bat for Elon Musk outside the White House examining the Teslas. Remember this? Remember what we were, McDonald's? This is what we could have been. It's so stupid. Remember where you'd be without me. Like, I get why he's upset, and I'm not a fan of the bill. It's just like the richest man in the world and the most powerful man in the world are having the cattiest fight. Oh my God. It's goofy. Come on. What he's doing is heroic. Okay, so there's no retaliation against who asked who to leave. Not that it matters, but it kind of does, because it's funny. One way or another, it's funny. And then you have the Trump and the Epstein files thing. In light of the president's statements about cancellation by government contracts, will begin decommissioning. Jesus. This is him posting shit. What is this?
Which was when he was talking to Bill Gates. And Bill Gates had just taken out some huge short on Tesla. It was like $1 billion short or something. And, you know, and Elon was like, why would you do that? Why would you short Tesla? And Bill goes, well, I talked to my financial advisors and I looked at the math and there's no way it's overvalued. And so I'm going to make money on the short. And Elon goes, what do you care about making money? I thought you were into electric cars and climate change and saving the world. What are you doing, like trying to save a few bucks and betting against? Like, and he just walked away in disgust. And I think he never talked to Bill Gates after that. And that's when I realized, like, Elon's a purist. He means what he says. Like, the money is a tool for him to get what he's trying to do. And so I take him at face value.
Okay. The Trump you see how fast it goes, though? Can I finally say that Trump's tariffs are super stupid? And then Elon reposts it. The Trump tariffs will cause a recession in the second half of this year. To be fair, he has generally been against the tariffs, if not, like, super outspokenly, like, very quiet around it. And this is him reposting something, trying to get back together. And then, yeah. So, it's just catty. Like, I don't know. I think it's more funny than anything. The bill is going to be fought for and against. Maybe this will lead to some shit taken out of it. Hopefully. Like, I'm still American. I'm still going to pay taxes and have to deal with this debt. So, like, it's in everyone's best interest that it doesn't explode any further. But this drama, and it really is just drama at this point. One, it's funny. And two, if it ends up taking some spending out of the bill, that's wonderful. Hopefully in areas where the spending won't result in some... spending cuts won't result in, like, deaths and shit, but we'll see. See, if Scott Bessent sent anything, I would be surprised if he did. 2 hours. Under protest, the administration achieved the most secure border. Okay. Okay, International Criminal Court shit. Nothing. Wow.
In front of
We're on it, and I.
That is a 7-hour stream, so I'm going to call it here. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and we'll pick up with more of this shit tomorrow. Bye. Or should we raid somebody? Let's raid somebody. Raid channel. Let's go. Is the Georgian guy live? Good raid Corey. Good raid Hassan. I'm sure you guys would love to see that. Politics. Let's see. Who is live? I don't think anyone I know or tangentially know. All right, we're going. Sort by for me. Oh, what? I don't know. Whatever. Let's do Corey. One viewers. Oh, that's okay. Never mind. That seems more like a hindrance than anything. So, see you guys tomorrow.